So last week we began to talk about restraint. And also last week we attended a workshop online through Barry Center for Buddhist Studies. So we're going to do a little intermingling of our thoughts from both of those.
Right. And we're going to pair up restraint with discernment and talk about them as friends, as buddies in the practice, because we're also following a few weeks of talking about stories. And we see that within our stories, a lack of restraint can cause harm, or a lack of discernment can cause harm within our stories. So they're really ethical issues.
And we also, last week sort of spoke about how in more mainstream mindfulness instructions, there's the explicit or implicit direction to not really get into your stories. And we say we're not we're sort of the middle path here. We're not saying don't allow your stories. We're saying actually your stories are valuable. They have a lot to tell you, but also there is at times the need for discernment about them and restraint.
Right. And we inherited another story, I would call it a story, with the meditation practice, which is keep meditating no matter what. And this is something that, I mean, every meditator knows. You just go back and meditate, keep meditating. And it seems to be in the atmosphere, but we really want to look at that instruction more critically and allow ourselves to actually critique meditation instructions, any ones that we get, because that is a part of developing your own discernment. And if you can't discern which instructions are working for you at what time, you're going to be left feeling powerless and without choice. And that's a really delicate place to find yourself within a meditation practice.
And reflective meditation, we could say, when we think about the different things that develop in meditation, we could say reflective meditation really leans quite heavily on this development of discernment, because we're letting our stories go on sometimes, most of the time, many times, and then we're writing about them, and then we're sometimes speaking about them, and all of that leads to more discernment, which leads to more clarity, internal clarity about when to restrain it, rather than that coming from the outside.
Right, right, right. And um, Pierce Salgaro, the professor at Penn State University, he is the person who did a workshop at Barry for Buddhist studies. He was really talking about the potential risks and benefits of meditation and went more deeply into some of the risks, which often get glossed over or don't get like brought out as informed consent when you start a meditation practice. These are some things you need to be aware of, or possibilities that have happened to others or could happen. So it was a very interesting workshop.
And also, he's a scholar, so he did this in a scholarly manner, but he already went back to the time of the Buddha, where the Buddha was telling that there was a need, that to some monks, that there was a need to use restraint around the practice. And it goes all the way through the history of Eastern religions, which he went over in some detail. So this is not a new problem.
Right, right, right. But his summary statement was interesting, Nellie. Do you want to
Yes,
speak to
I was
that?
very interested in it. He said, in conclusion, I don't know if he used those exact words, but meditation is psychoactive. It is a psychoactive intervention. And we looked up exactly what psychoactive, one definition, which is something which can have significant impact on mental processes. And I really perceive meditation this way.
Right. And I flippantly said meditation should come with a warning label.
Oh, no, he said that. He said that.
Oh, I
Actually.
thought I said it.
No,
Okay.
he said it. Well, you said it. He
Well,
said
I
it.
said it, but I didn't know he said it. So we both
Yeah, yeah. You
said it.
both agree. There's a clear agreement here.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, I think of cigarettes and the label that we got, medications, the label we've getting foods, which now have labels, and like this is kind of right in line where we need to be more transparent and label what our activities.
Right. So, the mind can roam to some places that are difficult and even maybe to the more extreme dangerous. And especially if you're taking up an extreme form of meditation on retreat where it's just keep meditating no matter what, don't leave, keep meditating.
Yeah, we really have moderated that story. In fact, I rarely say that anymore because of all of the trainings we've done on trauma, being trauma informed, and slight shifts that we've taken within our practice that try to balance some of that extreme silence, extreme meditation with talking, with journaling, with recording, with reflecting, with conversations. And we've been going in this direction for, quite a few years.
Right. And we were going in this direction before we knew it was trauma informed, before that label was placed
Label.
upon it
Yeah.
by the expert. Um, we were going that way. So it's always sort of, I like that when we sort of know something more intuitively, and then the expert researches it and has a whole language for it that confirms it.
Even more intuitively, but from our own experience,
Right.
right?
Right.
Both of those that go hand in hand so that we start to trust that and actually, lead with it rather than leading, again, a parallel process here, leading with the prescribed keep meditating no matter what
Right.
story.
Right. And that's interesting, that moment right there between us, because yeah, I used the word intuitive and I think it was the wrong word actually. But what I think I was really trying to get at was we just what you were where you went, like we know this because we've seen it. We may not have put a whole theoretical orientation around it, but we've seen it enough that we kind of know it without having all that languaging about it.
Right, right. And then somebody comes along and puts it on the map, and it feels
Right.
really good to, to,
Well, it feels really good, and then sometimes it doesn't feel so good because then they become the famous ones who this is the
oh
new
yeah,
show in town, and we've been doing that show for a while.
yeah.
But I won't get into that.
There's that
I'll
part.
restrain myself now.
Yes. And well, and I'll label it as dukkha, a certain kind of dukkha that comes with that.
Exactly,
Um,
exactly.
but
Um,
oh,
However, we're not orchestrating how you should restrain yourself. We actually are really encouraging you to discern that through, reflection within the meditation, in the journaling, in the talking out the meditation, just knowing your own experience and really getting a better handle of when you're going down a path that's either a dead end or even feels hurtful, not good for you.
right. Well, in addition to that, we are also going back to the Buddhist teachings. So we're having this freedom within our practice in developing discernment and restraint. And then we're going back and checking where is this in some of the Buddhist teachings? How has it been talked about? How is it looked at in a sutta? And I found a sutta this morning it's called the Sutta on Discernment, and it's been translated by Thanissaro Bhikkhu. And we liked it, and we're not going to go through the whole sutta over the next week, but we're going to take pieces of it and talk about it um, in relation to how we look at discernment and restraint. So we're going to end with a short paragraph. Nellie, do you want to read it or?
Yeah, well, I'm going to read maybe part of it,
Okay.
part of the sentence, really.
Okay.
These monks, always addressed to monks, but are the 8 causes, the 8 requisite conditions that lead to the acquiring of the not yet acquired discernment that is basic to the holy life.
Yes. And this is to the increase and plenitude, development, and culmination of that which has already been acquired.
So there's two sides to that, and that this is a common thing in the suttas. Like you acquire the positive qualities. This is the positive quality of discernment, and then that which you've already acquired, you increase and develop. So that's a common. Well, at least it's used in skillful effort.
Right.
That's truthfully all I know. Um, but um, but it really speaks to the necessity of acquiring the as yet unacquired
Right.
discernment. It's funny words, but we like them.
Yeah, because I really like that I haven't acquired this yet. It's still coming. Like this is still in process, and I have an intention to keep acquiring more discernment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So shall we meditate and see what we discern and what we restrain and how it goes?